All right, here we go. So this weekend was the store championship for the Dominaria United season. So we went into the store, and surprisingly, nobody showed up. You should really go to your store championship, especially when the prize is a $200 card. We had 3 people there, and we decided mutually, let's actually do sealed instead of the traditional draft format that was being offered. So we did that, and this was what we came up with. And honestly, the deck performed very well for being 5-color good stuff, headlined by Jodah. We got a foil mythic Jodah in our packs. This was a lot of fun to play with, and we're going to go through why that was. So to start with we'll start with the premier creatures. We got Jodah, and if you don't know, which I didn't know, Jodah is effectively always a 6/6, even though the card says a 5/5, because he gives all legendary creatures +X, where X is the number of legendary creatures. Jodah is a legendary creature, therefore he gives himself +1/+1. This takes a little bit of an extra brain cell that I didn't have that moment when I was first playing Jodah. But we now know. So that's a little tidbit for you. Also, this really cool second ability is what made it fun to play these other legendaries. Although admittedly only running 4 other legendaries limited our ability to have the effect take place. But don't you worry, we're definitely playing this on Magic Arena. So that second ability, when you cast a legendary spell, you exile cards from the top of the library until you exile a non-legendary, or excuse me, a legendary that had lesser mana value than the cast legendary spell. And then you could cast that card without paying its cost. And all the exile cards of your library get shuffled back into your deck. So that's awesome. Honestly, yeah, I gotta admit, that didn't actually happen. The one time it did, I had Balmor come out, and Balmor is my cheapest legendary. Balmor is amazing because when you are casting a combat trick, everyone's getting trample and the +1. And this is for each instant or sorcery you cast. A lot of these 1-drop, 2-drop combat tricks are just building up in your attack phase. That honestly was one of the many reasons I won. It was having Balmor out and then playing a Shore Up to give it +1/+1, and then Colossal Growth to give it +4/+4, or then Gaia's Might after I already hit Domain, and then a Twinferno for friggin' double strike. They were done taking 14 damage on one attack. They were not expecting that with my move there. So, I love Balmor. Honestly, if I see Balmor, I just might try and force a blue-red spells in a draft format. But anyway, let's move on. So, Uurg, Spawn of Turg. This guy gets a special mention because this guy saved me in my win in one of my last games. So, Uurg, why did you save me when I was down and out for the count? Well, Uurg turned a game where I'm just getting mana flooded and smacked by some red-white aggro into an ability to actually get through the top of my deck and put all that extra land garbage away in the late game when you don't want it, and actually give you something to do with it too. Help build you back up as far as life down. I was down to like 3 life. Uurg, Spawn of Turg came in, and he was helping me by being a big blocker for their many little attackers, and also helped me gain life. And this is, it's not a tap ability, thankfully, so I could just do that multiple times a turn, build back up my life. I had land cards in my hand. I just seemingly, you're running 5 colors, you want to at very least be at 17, and I was, and you could just have that bad luck of just drawing land after land. So, Uurg, I must say, you are darn near, you're probably the MVP. You won me single-handedly one of the games. Moving on from Uurg, let's go King Darien. King Darien, he did not get play, but he's nice because other creatures you control get +1/+1. That goes very well. If Jodah's out, other legendaries you get +X/+X, number of legendaries you have him up and play, and he helps me go wide, Darien that is, and I can also just keep him alive with all the 1/1s that I had. Did I have any other means of making 1/1 soldiers? I did not, but still. Good card to have for buffing everyone else that I had out. Zar Ojanen. This is a great card. Honestly, surprised it's uncommon. I've played against this and got my butt kicked, so I was happy to open this in my sealed draft boosters and put it in play. So basically, if you're not familiar, whenever Zar gets tapped, Put +1/+1 counters on each creature you control with toughness less than the number of basic land types among the lands you control. This deck was running Domain. We had 5 basic land types frequently, so this was very nice for establishing presence on the board. Moving on to our non-legendary premier creatures, we had Uurg Lorgoyf. Honestly, this only came into my hand for one game, and it was a game where I was losing, and this was not that thrilling to get. This deck does not put a lot of creatures in your graveyard, and even when I kicked it, maybe I could have saved myself by kicking it a second time. It's always the risk you run when you're deciding how much do I want to kick this. Do I really want to mill 6 of my cards and see my one card that I knew in my deck might have saved me just get put in the graveyard, and I have no way of getting it back. So this was a little dicey. I'm happy I do have it on the foil though, because I'm pretty sure my collection doesn't have the foil. But anyway, on to our next premier creature that is non-legendary. That's Defiler of Vigor. This also did not get any play, and it wasn't because I couldn't cast it, being the double green. I just didn't pull it in my hand. But this would have been nice too, because this also just buffs everyone wide. And as far as creatures go, I'm realizing now this probably would have been a little bit more limiting, because I really only had 4 creatures who could have possibly triggered this ability. I was not strongly in green, but I just saw the Defiler being a big beefy 6/6, and I was doing big beefy stuff, and I just thought it would be threatening. I probably didn't think about that too much. Honestly, maybe I would have cut this card, but it didn't become a problem. I was never having it in hand, not being able to play it, because again, I never did have it in hand. So, moving on to our secondary creatures. Who was real key? Sunbathing Rootwalla. Oh my god. The board presence that this little guy has. I mean, when you're attacking with them, they're like, oh my god, is he going to pump it? Should I even block? And honestly, this was a key card to have, especially on the defending side when they're attacking into you. I mean, depending on their mana situation, you got to watch out for the combat tricks, but this was really nice to just sprout up to be a 7/7 and just pose a wall to help limit their amount of damage they're inflicting. As far as mana fixing goes, this is 5 colors. We really had to make sure we were hitting our walls. So Salvage Mana Worker was high key as far as helping filter some of our colors. Something I learned was if you have Pain Lands and Salvage Mana Worker out, you do not need to ping yourself for mana or for pain, because literally you could just do the colorless mana into Mana Worker and get your color. That might have cost me one of the games, I gotta admit, but, that's why we play. We learn. Flourish Vine Wall, you know what that does. You get to reveal the top 6, reveal a land card, put it into your hand, and, get lands that way. Pixie Illusionist, target land becomes land of your choice if you tap this. Pixie Illusionist saw my hand a lot, and honestly it was a little underwhelming with its board presence, but, I did like the option to have it as kicker to come in a little stronger. That did not happen ever, but just by the chance of what I did and didn't draw. Moving on, we also had Battlefly Swarm. We always like the removal option that Battlefly Swarm offers us by just being that flyer, able to stop, non-flyers and flyers both together. And, for a 1-drop, that's not too much to ask for. We had Venusino Branch Rider. I just had a little bit of that. I'm always looking for that hasty, aggro-y play. And honestly, I just like the options that were offered by this card is being able to scale in late game, when being able to come in with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. It honestly never really happened that way, but that's why this was included. Juniper Order Root Weaver. So then again, another +1/+1 counters. I guess you could say a sub-theme to this game was we were looking at +1/+1 counters. I mean, you're getting them from Zar Ojanen, you're getting them from this card, you're getting them from Defiler of Vigor, you're getting the passive +1/+1 from Darien, Jodah, you get the temporary from Balmor. It was a lot of that wide sharing of wealth. Anyway, onto the spells. So for combat tricks, we had Tolarian Geyser, really nice for just getting that life, drawing a card. This card is prime. Whenever I see this card, I am thinking, can I make that work in my deck? Because I just love to see this. Shore Up, a card that I am still trying to work on, getting used to picking up, because I know it's a good card. I just have to get used to figuring out what are the best opportunities to use this card. I was talking about my plays with someone that I was playing with over the weekend at Store Championship, and they were talking about how this should be the last card on the stack because it gives it hexproof if they had any responses to any of my earlier combat tricks, and that makes a lot of sense. That is something I have to work on, is thinking about the stack and my order of combat tricks. Next is Gaia's Might. Gaia's Might was great. I mean, like I said, when we were hitting that 5 domain, and that came easy. I mean, honestly, we were doing that on turn 5. We did put down Jodah on turn 5 multiple times. Honestly, that was asking for a removal, and it did get removed. But still, Gaia's Might, ready and activated on turn 5 and later for just that 1 mana cost, that made a big difference. But honestly, what was better in my opinion was Colossal Growth, and that was because of the kicker. 4/4 trample, that won me games. When I was doing this combined with Twinferno, I mean, think about it. You're doing +4/+4 on whatever creature it is. Let's say it's Balmor, so it's a 5/7. Then you're doing double strike on the 5/7, and then Balmor's getting the +1/+1 for each incantation, so it's 10, and then the +1/+1, that's 12 from just these 2 cards. This is a naughty combo that I got to use and win games with, and that was amazing. Okay, Take Up the Shield. This is a classic way to pull yourself out of a rut. You know, 1/1 counter, and you get the lifelink and indestructible. I think I got this to play out once, and that was always nice. Removal, we had 2. We had Citizen's Arrest, which honestly, I was pushing a little bit with double white, but I was able to use this several times, honestly, and slowing down some of the aggro pushes I was dealing with. So, happy to include. Destroy Evil. I actually had to sideboard this out for the red-white go wide, because very rarely do they have creatures with toughness of 4 or greater. But we did include that for, we went up against another domain deck, and that is definitely needed. Urborg Repossession, I just really enjoy this. You know, the one drop for getting a creature card back from the graveyard, and honestly, I might have used that on Jodah if we got into it a little later in that game, but also the +2 on the life. And you can kick this and you can get another permanent as well. As far as lands go, you know, we had double Radiant Groves, we did Sunlit Marsh, Haunted Mire, Tangle's Inlet, Sacred Peaks, and then we had the 2 Pain lands, Yavimaya Coast and Caves of Koilos. I was so close to winning Omnath. It came down to game 3, my final game, but ultimately I was getting a little excitable with my decisions and, you know, attacking with Uurg, Spawn of Terror when I shouldn't have. That did probably cost me the game, but regardless, it was a lot of fun. I have a new respect for Domain. I was honestly a little leery on Domain, but honestly, if you go for, you know, if you really commit yourself to establishing your mana base, you know, if you're 5 color, you need to have at least, in my opinion, 7 or 8 sources of that color, you know, whether it's coming from the dual lands, whether it's coming from the Mana Worker or the 1-drop blue flyer or Vine Wall, you know, counting all those up as being able to be potential sources. That's something to get into the practice to if you really want to be in 5 colors, and that's what I'm getting used to. So overall, I'm really happy with the weekend. I learned a lot. I got Jodah, and we're going to throw that into our collection binder. We might as well just do that right now. Alright, the first card we're swapping out is Urborg Lurgoyf, because I did not have this card in foil, but now we do, and we are going to swap that one out. So this is our collection here. We're trying to get 1 of everything in Dominaria, and if we can, secondary goal, get it in foil. So now we upgraded Urborg Lurgoyf to the trade binder with this one. And now for Jodah, we obviously did not have a Jodah before, but now we do. Got it sleeved up in our gold back sleeve, going right next to King Darien. Beautiful. Well, thanks for watching the video. We'll upload again next time we have some good experiences at draft. Take care.